You've been talking to yourself like a damn enemy for far too long. And don't tell me you haven't noticed. It's in the way you flinch at compliments, the way you brace for failure before you even start. So for the next 3 days, you're going to talk to yourself differently, not like someone who's broken, but like someone who's becoming. You're going to look in the mirror and say, I'm not behind, I'm not late, I'm learning. You're going to drop the guilt, trip language, the panic, the self-doubt, dressed up as realism. For 3 days, you're going to speak to yourself with the same patience you give a child learning to walk. When you make a mistake, you're going to say, that's part of it, and move forward. When fear shows up, you'll say, thanks for the warning, but I've got this now. For 3 days, your voice in your own head is going to be your coach, not your critic. You're going to speak as if everything you've been waiting for is already on its way, because the truth is, it is, if you just stop talking yourself out of it. So try it, 3 days. That's all. Watch how fast your world starts to shift when the loudest voice you hear finally starts rooting for you. Represent harsh self-talk with kind, respectful inner dialogue. Yes, I'm talking about that quiet voice in your head that's been running wild for years, unchecked, unchallenged, and frankly, unkind. You know exactly what I mean. That voice that whispers, of course you mess that up when something goes wrong. That snide little murmur that says, why even bother before you've taken your first step? That voice that wouldn't dare speak to anyone else the way it speaks to you, not without being called cruel or toxic or flat out mean. And yet you've let it run the show. Every single one of us carries that voice, shaped by old wounds, failure, rejection, shame. It's picked up phrases from past teachers, family, friends, media, bullies, all of it. And somehow you made the mistake of calling it truth. But here's what you need to hear. That voice is a liar. It's not the voice of wisdom, it's the voice of damage. And if you let it keep driving, it will steer you away from everything you're meant to become. So now you flip the script. You catch that voice mid-sentence and interrupt it like a bouncer at the door of your mind. Nope, we don't talk like that here anymore. You replace, I'm such an idiot with, I didn't know and now I do. You swap, I'll never be good enough with, I'm doing better every damn day. Speak to yourself with the same dignity you demand from someone else. Talk to yourself like someone worth defending, because you are. You've been through too much, fought too many invisible battles, carried too many silent burdens to be talked down to by your own damn self. And no, this isn't about fake positivity or pretending things are fine when they're not. It's about refusing to be your own worst enemy. You're going to start treating your inner voice like sacred ground. What you say inside becomes what you believe outside. So if you're going to listen to a voice all day long, make sure it's one that actually wants to see you rise. Speak to yourself as you would a dear friend. Because let's be real, if you ever spoke to someone you loved the way you sometimes speak to yourself, they'd walk out the door and never come back. Imagine your closest friend comes to you, tired, discouraged, unsure of themselves, and instead of offering comfort or support, you scoff and say, you always mess things up. Or, you're never going to get it right. You wouldn't, would you? Because you know how harmful that would be. So why is it somehow acceptable to say those same things to yourself silently every single day? Somewhere along the way, you decided that giving yourself grace was weakness, that being tough on yourself was the only way to improve, and that kindness was something reserved for others. But that's backwards. You don't grow from shame. You don't bloom from punishment. You grow when you feel safe enough to try, to fail, and to try again. And the truth is, you need to be on your own side. Talk to yourself like someone who matters, like someone worthy of gentleness, patience, and encouragement. If your best friend failed at something, you wouldn't rub their face in it. You'd remind them of what they've done right. You'd point out how far they've come. You'd say, you've got this, even if they didn't quite believe it yet. That's the standard now. That's the bar. No more talking to yourself like you're disposable or unworthy. No more words laced with resentment or disappointment. You start speaking with care, with protection, with love, even when you're struggling, especially when you're struggling. Because the way you speak to yourself in hard moments defines what kind of relationship you have with yourself. And if that relationship isn't rooted in kindness, then nothing else can grow right. So from now on, you ask yourself, would I say this to someone I love? If the answer is no, then you don't say it at all, not even in your head. use present tense affirmations instead of future hopes. Because the language you use isn't just decoration, it's direction. It shapes how your brain sees you, how your heart believes in you, how your body moves through the world. Saying, I will be confident is nice, but it leaves room for doubt, for delay, for pushing it all into some far-off future that never quite arrives. But when you say, I am confident, you claim that identity now, even if your hands are shaking and your voice is unsure. It's not about faking it, it's about anchoring it. Present tense affirmations aren't lies. They're the seeds of who you're becoming, spoken in the tense of truth, because your subconscious doesn't know the difference between today and tomorrow, between hope and fact. It just listens. And when you say, I am strong, it starts scanning for evidence to support it. It starts acting like it's true. Your breath shifts, your spine straightens, your energy changes. That's the power of now. Saying, I'm healing is a world apart from I will heal. Saying, I'm focused pulls you back from the scroll, the noise, the self-doubt, and puts you back in the driver's seat. You stop waiting for the mood to strike, for the stars to align, for the confidence to magically appear. You stop waiting, period. You start declaring. Speaking in the present tense isn't delusion, it's decision. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about owning the process as if it's already yours. I am learning, I am improving, I am enough. These are not distant hopes. They are daily truths. You don't need permission to say them. You don't need someone to validate you before you step into that identity. You need to decide, do you want to talk about who you might be someday, or do you want to step into who you already are right now, flaws and all, and let your voice lead the way? Cut out phrases like, I can't, or I'm not good enough, because every time those words leave your mouth, whether whispered under your breath or screamed inside your head, they build a wall, brick by brick, between you and the life you say you want. And let's not pretend it's just a habit, it's a belief system, a toxic one. It's that old programming playing on repeat, telling you that you're not ready, not worthy, not capable. But who wrote that script? Whose voice did you swallow so many times that it started sounding like your own? I can't is rarely about real limitation. It's about fear dressed up as logic. And I'm not good enough is a sentence that only survives because you keep feeding it. So to starve it, cut it off at the source. When you hear yourself thinking, I can't do this, stop and ask, can't because of what? Because you've tried and failed? That's not can't. That's learning. Because you don't know how yet? That's not can't. That's process. The truth is you've done harder things. You've survived more painful days. And this idea that you have to be perfect before you begin, that's the real lie. I'm not good enough is the kind of poison that sounds reasonable, even responsible. And that's why it's so dangerous. It tricks you into staying small. But being humble doesn't mean being cruel to yourself. Doubt doesn't make you noble. It makes you stuck. And the worst part, you start saying those phrases so often they become casual, automatic, like background noise you don't even notice. But they matter. They echo. Your nervous system hears them. Your future hears them. So from this moment on, you become your own editor. When I can't creeps in, you rewrite it to I'm figuring it out. When I'm not good enough tries to make a home in your head, you throw it out like the unwelcome guest it is. You replace it with I'm doing the work. I'm showing up. I'm becoming the kind of person who can, because the words you choose are the foundation of the identity you build. And you better believe that foundation needs to be solid, not soaked in doubt and fear, pretending to be truth. Remind yourself of your past victories, no matter how small, because memory is a strange, biased thing, and it has a habit of zooming in on your failures while quietly erasing everything you've ever done right. And if you don't make it a point to remember your wins, your mind will trick you into thinking you've never had any. But you have. You've overcome moments you didn't think you would. You've shown up on days when everything in you said, stay down. You've handled loss, rejection, betrayal, fear. You've carried grief like a quiet badge of honor. And still, here you are. That is not small. But here's what happens. We move on so fast from our successes. We barely pause to acknowledge them. We accomplish something we once dreamed of, and the next day we're already focused on what we haven't done yet, what's still missing, how far we have left to go. That's not ambition. That's amnesia. and it's killing your confidence. You keep wondering why you don't feel strong, motivated, ready, but how can you when you've built your self-image on everything that went wrong instead of everything you've already survived? So stop skipping over the proof. Go back and remember. The job you didn't think you'd get, the conversation you were terrified to have but did anyway, the time you stood up for yourself, the moments you showed compassion instead of anger, the mornings you got out of bed when the weight felt unbearable. Don't dismiss those things just because they didn't come with applause. That quiet courage, that's gold. That's what you're made of. You're not starting from scratch, you're starting from experience. You're standing on the shoulders of every version of you who didn't quit. And when you start collecting those victories and stacking them like armor, you walk into the next challenge differently, not with blind optimism, but with earned belief, with grounded confidence. Because now you're not just hoping you'll make it, you remember that you've made it before. Challenge your doubts out loud. Don't just let them sit. Because silence gives them power. When you let a negative thought pass through your mind unchecked, unspoken, unchallenged, it doesn't just vanish. No, it burrows deeper. It starts weaving itself into your belief system, your decisions, your posture, your tone. Doubt has a sneaky way of sounding rational, of dressing itself up in the language of being realistic or protecting yourself. But if you dig even an inch beneath the surface, you'll usually find fear, shame, and some outdated narrative that no longer belongs to you. And if you never stop to question it, to speak back to it, it becomes your default. That voice that says, "You're not ready," say it out loud and then counter it. Why not? Who says? When will I ever feel fully ready? And is that even necessary? That thought that creeps in and says, "You'll probably fail." Good. Say it out loud too, so you can hear how hollow it really is. Then ask, and what if I do fail? Haven't I failed before and survived? Didn't I grow? You see, when you make your doubts speak, they shrink. When you force them into the light of spoken words, they lose the mystique they carry when they live quietly in the dark corners of your mind. There's something powerful in naming them, in arguing with them out loud, like you would if someone said the same words to your best friend. Because you never sit there and let someone tell your friend she's not enough or that he's doomed to mess up again. You defend them, protect them, lift them up. So why not do that for yourself? This isn't about pretending doubt doesn't exist. It's about refusing to bow to it without a fight. Speak it. Confront it, drag it into the daylight and dismantle it piece by piece. Say, yes, I'm scared, but I'm doing it anyway. Say, maybe I don't have it all figured out, but I'm learning faster than I ever have. The truth is, your doubts have been way too loud for way too long, and your confidence has been way too quiet. It's time to flip that. Not in your head, out loud. Let your voice be the sound that makes fear lose its grip. Mirror talk. Say it while looking at yourself. Mean it. Really mean it. Because there's a different kind of power that comes when your words are no longer just floating thoughts in your head, but spoken directly to your own reflection, eye to eye. No hiding, no pretending. And yes, it feels weird at first, awkward, maybe even a little ridiculous. You'll laugh or you'll roll your eyes or you'll want to walk away after 5 seconds. That's your discomfort with self-acknowledgement showing. That's your resistance to facing yourself head on. But push through that. Stand still. Look yourself in the eye. Not the version you curate for the world, but the raw, tired, hopeful human standing in the mirror. And speak to that person. Tell them they're doing better than they think. Tell them they're worthy, even on the days they feel like a mess. Tell them they've got more strength in them than they've ever tapped into. The mirror doesn't lie, but it does reflect what you choose to bring to it. If all you bring is criticism, that's all you'll see. But when you bring intention, when you bring compassion, affirmation, truth, you begin to reshape how you relate to yourself on a physical, emotional, even spiritual level. You start to see yourself not just as a body carrying wounds, but as a soul carrying wisdom. This isn't just about positive thinking, it's about deliberate reprogramming. Because your reflection is often the first thing you see in the morning and the last thing you see at night. Why let that moment be filled with silence, judgment, or detachment? Why not turn it into a ritual of connection? You already talk to everyone else with care. Why not you? You've gone too long criticizing the face in the mirror for what it lacks, instead of thanking it for what it's endured. So speak out loud. Call yourself by name. Say, I've got you. Say, I'm proud of you. Say, we're going to figure this out. And say it like you mean it, even if your voice cracks, even if it feels unnatural at first, because one day it won't. One day it will feel like the most honest thing in the world. Repeat these patterns for 3 days straight to rewire your mind. Because this isn't magic, it's mechanics. It's how the brain works. You've spent years, maybe decades, reinforcing one kind of mental pathway. Self-doubt, self-criticism, fear-based thinking, shrinking instead of stepping forward. That wasn't built in a day, and it's not going to vanish in one either. But give it 3 days, just 3. That's not forever. It's a signal, a decision. It tells your brain, your body, your nervous system, we're doing things differently now. And here's the wild thing. 3 days is long enough to disrupt the autopilot. It's long enough to introduce a new rhythm, to plant the first roots of a new habit, to make you pause before defaulting to the old scripts. The first day might feel clumsy. You'll catch yourself saying the old things before remembering to switch. That's normal. That's good. Awareness is the first step toward change. The second day, you'll notice the gap, the space between stimulus and response. And in that space, you get to choose. That's where the power lives. The third day, that's where something starts to click. You're not perfect, but you're aware. You're not faking it, you're practicing. And every time you replace a harsh word with a kind one, every time you speak to yourself with respect, every time you challenge a doubt or face yourself in the mirror and say something true, you're not just making yourself feel better in the moment, you're rewiring, you're undoing years of conditioning that told you to be small, silent, afraid. And no, 3 days won't change your life overnight, but they will prove that it's possible, that you have control over your inner world, that you are not just the passenger in your mind, you are the driver, the builder, the author of the narrative. Give yourself that. Commit to 3 days of being intentional, consistent, and unapologetically kind to yourself. Speak the words, do the mirror work, catch the old scripts and rewrite them without mercy, because repetition is how belief is born. And if you can hold the line for 3 days, just imagine what might happen next. And here's the thing. 3 days is just the beginning. You don't need to wait for perfection or for some magical moment when it all suddenly clicks. This work, it's ongoing. It's a practice, a choice you make every single day. But after those 3 days, when you've shown yourself a new way to speak, a new way to think, a new way to live in the world, you'll begin to notice something subtle but powerful. You'll notice that the voice in your head isn't as cruel, that the doubts don't carry the same weight, that the mirror doesn't feel like an enemy anymore. You'll notice that you've made room for something better, something truer. And when that happens, don't forget to stop and acknowledge it, celebrate it. You've just started to change the course of your life. And no matter how small the step feels, it is significant. You have done something for yourself that most people never even consider. You've chosen to speak with love, with patience, with truth. Keep going. The world will try to throw you back into old patterns, but now you know better. You've seen the shift, felt the power, and that is something no one can take away from you. So when the next challenge arises, don't shrink back. You've got this. You know you do. Or, oh, many